Hello friends, welcome back to okayazure. In this video we'll talk about scalability and we'll see an example of Azure VM skill set. Alright, so that being said, let's begin the video. Now let's talk about a business case. For example's sake, you have a portal called okayazure.videos.com and your application is running on a single server and the server configuration is as mentioned here. Your server has 8 virtual CPU cores and 28 GB of the memory. Now, this particular server is good enough to handle your day-to-day traffic. But just for the sake of example, you have uploaded a new video on your portal and that particular video went viral. Now you have huge traffic to handle. But as you know that your single server will not be able to handle this much of traffic. So what you can do is approach one is that you can simply go and create multiple VMs. So basically you are going to deploy your application on multiple servers to handle the incoming traffic. This particular approach is called horizontal scaling, right? And another approach, what you can do is you can simply go and extend the underlying resources of your virtual machine. You can simply go and increase the number of CPU cores and RAM of the underlying server to handle the incoming traffic, right? Now, this particular approach is known as vertical scaling, where your server is same, but here you have just extended the capacity of your underlying system. All right. So basically the idea here is to make you familiar with the terms called horizontal scaling and vertical scaling. All right, let's move forward. Now, scalability. So scalability is increasing the capacity to meet the increasing workload. And there are two types of the scalability. One is horizontal scaling and vertical scaling. All right. So now we know scalability is just to increase the capacity to handle the incoming traffic, right? So let me quickly show you here. So here is your web application running on VM1, but now you have got more traffic. So you simply go and create multiple instances of the server and you deploy your application on multiple server to handle the incoming traffic, right? So this particular approach is known as horizontal scaling or scale out. All right. Now, another approach to handle the incoming traffic is just to go and extend or increase the capacity of the underlying system in terms of CPU and memory, right? This particular approach is called scaling up or vertical scaling. So now you can notice here, right? Scalability works in the increasing order. It just let you increase the system's capacity to handle the traffic. All right. All right, now let's talk about elasticity. So it works with scalability, but as we know, scalability is just unidirectional and it works in the increasing order, whereas elasticity is bidirectional. So elasticity is increasing or decreasing the capacity to meet the increasing or reducing workload. For example, elasticity let you increase the number of underlying resources when traffic is high, and it also let you reduce the number of virtual machines when traffic is low. All right, let's go to the Azure portal and see how Azure virtual machine scale set works. So I'm here at the Azure portal. Let me just go and create virtual machine scale set. So I'll go to the compute and here you can see virtual machine scale sets. I'll simply go and create, add. All right, so I need to have a resource group first. So I'll simply go and create one resource group called okayazure-rz as my resource group name. Here I have to enter virtual machine scale set name. So I'll just call it as Okay, Azure VM scale set 01. Now location, so I'll simply go and pick East US. Availability zone, I'll leave as is. Operating system, let me just go and select Windows. Now site, so I will simply go, I think on DS1 V2, one CPU core. Let me just go and create a user. So it looks similar to the way we create a virtual machine. Let me just go and click on next. Now, this particular tab is very important to understand. Scaling. So the very first thing is that initial instance count. So basically these are the default count of virtual machines that you want to have. So I can just go and select one. I can put two as well. So I'll keep two because I want to have at least two virtual machines to handle the traffic. All right. Next option is scaling policy. So basically here you go and define the rules. So let me just go and select custom. Now if you see here it says minimum number of virtual machines. So I'll simply go and select two, that I want to have minimum two, maximum 10 virtual machines. Scale. So what the rule says is that when the traffic or CPU threshold goes more than 75%, at least for 10 minutes, simply go and increase the virtual machines by one. So basically, if the CPU threshold or usage is goes beyond 75% and at least for 10 minutes, I want to have new virtual machine to handle the traffic. So this is my scale out policy or rule. Scale in says that if CPU threshold is 25%, just simply go and remove the additional virtual machine. All right. Now next is, do you want to keep the diagnostic logs? You can go select enable or disable, but for now I'll simply keep it disabled. Let me just go next. Management, boot diagnostic if you want, but I'll simply go and select off. Health. Now I'll simply go and click next, and I'll simply go and hit the create button so that we can have the virtual machine scale set ready. It will take close to 2 minutes, so we just have to wait. Deployment is in progress. All right, so now we have our VM scale set ready. Let's go to the resource. So here you can see the details. It says 1 out of 2 succeeded. So basically I wanted to have two virtual machines, but I just have only one up and running at the moment. And here I can see the operating system installed on the VM. Here I have the size DS1 V2. I just refreshed and I can see that I have my both of instances up and running, 2 out of 2. All right. Now, as I told you earlier in the beginning of the video, that scale set have there are four concepts. One is scale out and scale in, where you go and increase or decrease the number of instances. And another concept was scale up and scale down, where you go and upgrade the configuration or reduce the configuration of the underlying system, right? So first let's go and talk about the size. When I say size, here you can see here and click here. Now we see currently I'm using one core and 4 GB or 3.5 GB of the RAM, so DS1. Right, now I want to go and increase the number of CPU cores. So that particular concept known as scaling up. Why? Because I'm just going to increase the capacity or the computing power of the underlying system. Right. So what I will do is I'll simply go and select. Let's take this one, D4S. Here I have 4 CPU cores and 16 GB of the memory. Right. So it will just take a couple of minutes, not minutes basically, sorry, seconds. So here I am increasing the capacity, the RAM and CPU cores of the underlying system. It's done. So now if I go to the overview section, I should see the changes here. Now I can see here, right? Earlier it was DS1, one core. Now I have D4S version 3, right? So if I have to go back and change, like, so this is scale up. Now, if I have to go back and reduce the size, I can simply go and change the size. I can reduce it, right? So I can simply go and select one or V3, like from 4 CPU core to 2 CPU core and 16 GB of the memory to 2 GB of the or 8 GB of the memory. So I can simply go and select this one. So this particular concept is known as scale down. I am reducing the computing power of the virtual machine. All right. So I believe you guys understood what is scale up and scale down. So if you have to verify, just go here and then you can see in the overview tab. Now we are using D2S V3. Now let's go to the scaling tab here, this one. So this is a very important section. Now here you see the very first tab is configuration, and here you have two options. One is manual scale and second one is custom scale. When you go and select the manual scale, it says that you just go and define the number of instances. Like if I go and select this one manual, so I can simply put that I just want to have these many number of instances always without any rule. So I will always have 10 or 20 instances. Okay. Now, so if you see here, scale mode, there are two options. First one is scale mode on a metric and scale to a specific instance count. So if you see the first one based on a metric, it says the scale out rules. Under the rules section, it says scale out. So scale out, it means when, so if CPU threshold reaches more than 70%, go and create an additional virtual machine to handle the traffic. And scale in is like you want to remove the additional resource, additional VM. So scale in when the CPU percentage or usage is less than 25%, just decrease the VM count by 1. And here instance limits, I have minimum 2, default is 2, and maximum I can have 10 virtual machines. Right. Now, for example, if I simply go and change the number of instances, for example, I want to have 3. Default 3 and minimum is 3. Let me just go and save. So I have increased the default VM count to 3. So basically, if I go to instance and I should see 3 virtual machines running under my subscription under this particular scale set. Right. Now, before we go and check the instances, let's talk about scaling policy, the next tab. What it says, so here if you go and see in the drop down, you have three options. Scale in, we know, like scale in is the concept where you want to deallocate a virtual machine. So the very first one is default one, and the other two options are newest virtual machine. It means that you want to delete the newly created virtual machine first, or you can go and select the second option which says oldest VM. It means you want to delete the oldest virtual machine first. When it comes to deallocation, when your CPU threshold goes less than 25%, simply go and delete the oldest virtual machine first. All right. Next tab says run history. So here you can see like whatever is happening with your skill set. So if you see here, I was just having 2 virtual machine, and here it has been increased to 3, right? And here also I can see the details, auto scale up initiated at this time, right? And next tab, JSON is just like you have your JSON data all about your VM skill set. Next one is notify. So this is very important to understand. So basically here you can go and define a rule that whenever a VM gets created or deallocated, you just want someone to notify. That you can configure here. Diagnostic settings, if you really want to trace the log, like what is happening with your VMs or skill set, you can go and enable the diagnostic log. Now, let me tell you one more thing. In case if you want to change the existing rules or you want to add a skill set, for example, you want to change the rule. It says that when CPU percentage goes more than 75%, simply go and increase the virtual machine. So I want to change the rule that you see here, virtual machine host, metric name is percentage CPU. There are so many options available. And here I'll simply go and change this to more than 80%. If CPU usage goes more than 80%, then you simply go and add the virtual machine. Now you can see here the rule has been changed. Similarly, if you want to go and change the scaling condition, simply click here And if you go down here, it says that when the CPU threshold is close to or it is less than 20%, you can see we have few more options, or equal to or less than 20%, simply decrease the count by 1. Click on update. So you can see the rule, it is ineffective. Now if you want to add a scale condition, a new condition, so you can simply click here, and like again here you have two options. One is based on metric and based on another one is based on instance count. So I can simply go and add a rule here. Now there are different metrics available to choose from here, depending on the CPU, depending on the VM, disk, network, data disk, and so many other things, right? You can simply go and select whatever option you want, and then you can set the rule here, the condition or the check that you want to apply, and click on add. All right, let me just delete and discard the changes. So I believe you have got the idea how to go and change the existing rules and how to go and add a new scale condition. All right, now let's go and see the instances. Now if you see here, if you go to the scaling, we have defined the number of initial count is 3, that you can see here. Now I have 3 virtual machine to support my application. All right, let me close everything from here. So I hope you have got the idea how to go and scale up and scale down the virtual machine, basically the configuration, and how to scale out and scale in the virtual machines by defining the rules. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.